Welcome to the Porn Reboot podcast, where you get practical tips to gaining control over your porn or sex addiction. We help ambitious men end their out-of-control sexual behavior with pornography, sex, and masturbation so that you can maximize your life, perform at your potential, and remain in control in the driver's seat, which is where you have to be in order to gain or maintain the success you want in life. I'm your host, J.K. Amazi, certified sex and porn addiction recovery coach. Welcome to the episode. Brothers, anyone can talk the talk, but not everyone can walk the walk. And that's why here at Porn Reboot, where we do walk the walk, I'll be sharing every few episodes some snippets of success stories and testimonials from brothers who are in our implementation intensive and in our free groups. And they're going to be sharing some of the results they've been getting so that this can further inspire you to take action on all the different tips and techniques that you learn while listening to the Porn Reboot podcast. Enjoy.
Mike here. I want to shoot a video to talk about my story through life, my story through rebooting, where I'm at now, and talk about a little advice I'd have for the guys. Real quick, I've been in the intensive for over 3 years now. I've changed a lot in these 3 years. I've learned a lot. And JK and our legacy colleagues, I'm going to try to be moving on soon, mentioned me shooting a video talking about my story. And I've had so much resistance. This is not something I naturally want to do. But in my view, means it's something I'm going to do. So diving into these weird things like this. So where did it start? So I'm 43 years old, grew up in the 80s and 90s. I had a pretty traumatic childhood. My mom died when I was 13 or 14. Grew up with a very abusive father, physically, never sexual. It was just a hard time growing up, and I was always looking for somewhere to hide. And then one day, this is 1996, one of my brother's buddies showed me AOL chat rooms. I was like, what is this? And found out we had a little dial-up internet in 96 and showed me where you could chat to women on chat rooms. And to me, that blew my mind. So that started something in me where first it was novel, chatting to women, but it became a thing where that was where I got my validation. That's where I talked to women. I spent hours and hours on it through high school. And it didn't help me at all as far as growing up. I was awkward. I didn't know how to talk to women. I struggled. But I'd get online. I'd be a Romeo. It was my outlet, and it's where I went to hide. And through college, I was still doing it, not as bad. But then coming out of college, my first job, I moved alone to California. It slowly got worse. I was drinking heavier and heavier. Throughout my 30s, it became more of an compulsive behavior, more of an addiction. It was always compulsive, where I would chat online for hours and hours. I'm talking 8-9 hours at night. I wouldn't even sleep some nights. I'd go for 2 or 3 days benders. I'd still work. It never affected my work. It was just destroying me. I was up and down on this roller coaster. On top of that, I was drinking very heavily throughout my 20s and 30s. I was getting blackout drunk once a week. And the crazy thing is that I thought this was normal, this behavior. And I look back now and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel a lot of empathy towards myself because I never knew the other side of actually knowing peace. So I went throughout this, and when I was 39 years old, my younger brother, killed himself, committed suicide. And to me, it was a horrible event, but to me, that was one of the biggest blessings in my life because all of a sudden I realized that it just woke me up and made me realize something has to change. And so I tried changing on my own. I was like, oh, I'm done with all this stuff. And of course, you can't do that stuff on your own. And then I came across JK's podcast. I was actually on a NoFap app. Funny enough, somebody mentioned JK on there. And so I got on a call with GT. And I was the lowest point I'd ever been. I broke down crying with my wife. I told her everything. First of all, guys, if you think your wife doesn't know what's going on, she knows. And my wife was just giving me a lot of grace at the time. Got on a call with GT, and I was at the bottom of the barrel. I was crying. All I wanted was peace in my life. And I was in this horrible cycle. I felt like I was, number 11. I was staying. I wasn't sleeping. I hear guys acting out 2-3 hours. I'd get online. It'd be 8-9 hours. I joined the intensive. When I joined, It was quite a bit of money to sign up, but I was to the point, hey, something's got to change. This is an investment. And for me, making the investment, it was something I was going to stick by. So when I started, I was all in. I was running on emotions. I was feeling great. I went for 90 days, no slips at all. And I never done this. Just getting it through, and then I fell apart. I see this all the time with guys going through the program where you do great at first because you got the emotions, you got the investment, and then you just fall apart. After that, I was still drinking, not as heavy, but after that, I just fell apart. And for the next 2 or 3 years, I've been in a cycle of slips, relapses, but I've never given. And I'm going to go through the main steps I took throughout the last 3 years, really. First thing was drinking. JK, I'd get on the calls every week and talk about, I got drunk again, but I'm going to stop. All right, I just had a few. That wasn't cool. And JK called my bullshit and said, hey, dude, you got to stop drinking for a while. And so, number one, that's the biggest thing I did. I quit drinking for 4 months, totally. And it was amazing. After that time, I'd been drinking hard. But when you give yourself a break and pull back from it, your body stops craving it and you get off that roller coaster. And so that was huge for me. To that 3 or 4 months, I didn't even want to drink. I'll drink 1 or 2 here and there, but drinking is no longer a part of my life. Then from there on out, I just started listening to JK. I knew that the guys in the group and JK knew more than I did, and I wasn't going to be a stubborn guy. He mentioned dance lessons. So my wife and I, we joined I don't know if he called it dance troupe, but we joined a dance gym. I don't know what they call it, but we've been doing dance lessons every week for the last 2 or 3 years. That's been fantastic. Solo vacations. I'd never even heard of this. Guys taking their own vacations by themselves. JK was talking about it. And so a couple of years ago, I just started taking vacations by myself, at least once or twice a year. And my gosh, that was awesome. Took a couple of vacations to Montana. Then I ended up randomly in Canada. I went to some men's retreat up there, just found it online, and that's opened me up to so much. There's a whole other community up in Canada where I've got buddies now just from doing that. And that's one thing I've learned is that when you see opportunity, just do it. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Yes Man, but just say yes. Just saying yes to things has changed my life. Just the people I've met in the last few years, where before this, I just knew drinking. Like I'm my wife, we get drunk on the weekends. I have got 2 or 3 buddies back home I talk to, but that was it. Like I wasn't being social or anything. And by coming out of my shell like I did through force, now I talk to everybody. And just my community has grown so much. BJJ. So I started jiu-jitsu. I'd been driving by on the way to work every day to this jiu-jitsu gym. And finally I was like, damn it, just stop being a pussy. And so I walked in there and started the jiu-jitsu, I guess about 3 years ago now. And that has been huge for me. Guys, I know this is specific, but I know a lot of guys are struggling being by themselves and not really in the church and different things. I'll tell you, if you want a group of guys who are not heavy drinkers, who are into just having a good time, laughing, jiu-jitsu is great. You can go in there. You don't have to roll right off. It's a workout. It's a good group of guys. It gets you past the anxiety because you have to deal directly with guys. You're face to face. And that has been a huge life changer in my journey, is doing the jiu-jitsu. And I've gotten hurt, but you get used to getting hurt. Like I've torn my pec right now. Fully plan on going back. Jiu-jitsu has been huge. Another thing, therapy. So when I started this program, I was, as JK tells me, very anti-therapy. I was like, I'm going to do this program. I'm going to quit porn and chat sites and all that. But I don't need to go backwards. Started marriage counseling. The marriage counselor was like, hey, you got a lot of trauma from your child. You need to try this EMDR therapy. If you don't know what it is, Google it. So I found a local therapist I've been going to every week for about the last year, face to face. Oh my gosh, that has been unbelievable. EMDR, which essentially makes you sit through all the emotions you've had and bring it up, old emotions and all the trauma you've had, and letting your brain process that. It's where you don't get the physical reactions in your body when you bring it up. For example, my dad has been a huge stressor on me because I still have to take care of him, yet I despise the man 90% of the time. But working through that and working through my brother's death, to where when I think about my brother's death, I don't have these tense reactions anymore. You're just letting your brain process that. So if any of you guys have any type of trauma in your past, for me, once you get to a spot, getting a local therapist, specifically EMDR, highly recommend it. Another thing I've done for the last few years is church. I'd gone to big churches in the past, but it was more just going there to do it and going through the motions and trying to give back and whatnot. But throughout this process, I started going to a small church very close to my house, and it's been totally different. When you actually have the space in your mind to accept that, to accept God, to accept faith. I actually got baptized in my 40s, and to find that as an adult and the forgiveness I found through it, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. It's just been huge for me, guys. I can't suggest it enough. Going through the Bible, reading it every morning, and just the forgiveness through Jesus and how humble he was. And yeah, that's just been probably one of the biggest changes in my life. And on top of that, there's community at church, part of a couple different men's groups now. And that has been awesome. And actually found other brothers through jiu-jitsu, actually. And we have a jiu-jitsu men's Bible study. So yeah, through all this, I wasn't perfect. I feel like I'm preaching about all these great things. I was still acting out, relapsing, not nearly as much as I was, but still working through my shit. 3 years. I was not the best rebooter, as JK knows. But what I was doing was building a lifestyle. For me, it was harder than what I think other guys have gone through. I'm sure a lot of you guys have the same mindset that I've seen this other guy go through, and he's good to go in 6 months or a year, and I'm still here struggling. But what I truly think you have to do is build a lifestyle where all the positives get so big that you don't want to do the negatives anymore. You don't want the compulsive behavior because your life is so full of this other stuff. Yeah, and just building that lifestyle and never giving up. I think that's the biggest thing. Is I'm very stubborn by nature, and I have been in this program way, way longer than I ever thought I would be. But the fact that I don't give up on things, I don't give up on, it goes into these hobbies. Once I start something, I'm not going to stop. And you guys are going to do, that's really what you have to do. If you started this program, follow it through until you're comfortable with yourself. Well, now I'm at the point where I still get urges and whatnot, but I've finally got so much positivity in my life, and I've given up the shame. A lot of it was the shame of that cycle of acting out. Even in the program, when I'm acting out, relapsing, slipping, there's so much shame there. And releasing that shame through your lifestyle, through church, through whatever that is, getting that off your back is so, so huge. So those are the big stuff. And now I'm going to go through some more specific things that I've done. Morning routine. So I've been doing a morning routine now for 3 years, and it's just part of my life. On the morning routine, I know we hear a lot of things in the group about what to do. Suggest finding your own thing. For example, I'm not a meditator, but I love yoga for some reason. I never thought I'd be a yoga guy. I'm a big tough guy, but freaking I love yoga and watching goofy yoga videos, doing that. And for me, yoga, I'll turn on some kind of meditative music, and that is my meditation, where I'm able to clear my mind for about 30 minutes in the morning and actually make some progress where I'm getting more flexible. As far as tools I use from the program, I think the number one tool I use is the SOBER technique, which is stop, observe, breathe, evaluate, react. And what this makes you do is it makes you stop. And that is the most important thing, is to stop when you're in those urges. Sit back, stop, observe what's going on in your body, figure out, hey, what do I feel? And then breathe through it to help you relax. I believer in breath work. I learned it at the the retreat. The Wim Hof method, I think, is the best, where you do 30 deep breaths and then do breath holds. Do that about 3 times. Listen to some funky hippie music. And then, sounds crazy, but it will really chill you out. And getting the breath work retreat, I can't suggest it enough. So yeah, the sober technique, breath work, dialoguing. One of the best books I read through this was Parts Work. I'm working with Jessica. Gosh, it just you read the book Breaking the Cycle, which is a good start, where you're talking to your addict and calling it your addict. For me, calling it my addict always made me mad at that part. It's like you're fighting that part. But going through Parts Work, you realize that you have different parts and they're okay. They're just part of you. So when I dialogue, I'm talking specifically. I've got an angry 30-something-year-old part that's just pissed off, trying to protect me. I've got a scared kid. I've got a teenager part that's just an idiot. And so I've got three main parts. And once you start diving into that and accepting those parts and dialoguing with them and not talking down to those parts and saying, hey, you can't do this, but it's more asking questions and getting them to accept you as who you currently are, that you're going to take care of those parts. A few years ago, I never thought I'd be saying this stuff, but it's true, man. We're very complex people and we've all got different parts. Another thing, TRT. So I took a hormone test, I guess 3 years ago, and found out my TRT levels they're in the dumpster, or 200 something. So that's been a journey for me, is I've tried all the different TRT treatments. At first I was doing the pellets, and just be careful with the pellets. They do work, but you get the higher levels, you hang out, then you go down. After about a year, my body started rejecting the pellets and shooting them out of my butt. They were underneath the skin, not in my butt. But yeah, be careful of those. I highly suggest doing the injections a couple times a week. And when you do it, go face-to-face with a hormone doctor. Don't go to your regular doctor, not even online. I'd go face-to-face with somebody who can really do a full panel and look at everything that you've got going on. I'm actually off TRT right now and doing some different things in my hormone doc with different peptides, just trying to mix it up a bit. But having that professional advice with your hormones is very important. You've got to give up control throughout this process. As men, we try to control our lives. We think we know what's best for each other, and we don't. And you're in this program to learn from the other brothers in the group, from JK and all the different leaders, because you're in here because you don't know shit. You're in here to learn. And that's one of the biggest things I did in this program, was listen to everybody and actually take advice and take action. I hear some guys talk about, oh, I'm going to read this book. I'm going to read this book. I'm going to read this book. Instead of taking action, because they're too scared to actually take action and start. So go out there, talk to women, go do this, do that, make action steps and get you outside of your comfort zone. Don't just sit there and try to learn. And the last one is be kind to yourself. I've always been pretty rough on myself, even throughout this process, where I judge myself quite a bit, thinking I should be better, I should be further along, I shouldn't be breaking my morals or self-image. Just realize that for me, I've been in this activity for over 20-something years. And to break that cycle isn't a small thing and rewire your brain. I'm shit you. It's taken me over 3 years, and I'm doing so much better now. So good. But the key is, it wasn't until I started accepting my faults and realizing it's okay not to be perfect. Even to leave this program, I'm not perfect. I'm still gonna mess up here and there. Accepting that, as crazy as it is, what helped me actually stop the slipping and relapsing, and accepting you for who you are and all your different parts is so important. Because guys, what you're going through, you're not alone. But that's what I've got to say. Sorry, my recording isn't the best. I am going to leave you guys on something. I know, I think JK ripped some verses, so I've got a couple verses here from Galatians that I go back to quite a bit with all the acting out. And when I get in the depths of it, I read this because it makes me realize that I'm not alone. So Galatians 5:16. But I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the desires of the flesh are against the Spirit, and the desires of the Spirit are against the flesh. For they are opposed to each other to keep you from doing the things you want to do. So this is saying the Holy Spirit and the desires of the flesh are at a clash. That's what's inside all of us. But if you're led by the Spirit, not under the law, now the works of the flesh are evident. Now it's going to list the works of the flesh. Listen here. Sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissensions, divisions, envies, drunkenness, and this is my favorite, orgies, and things like this. I warn you, as I've warned you before, that those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. But the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. And those who belong to Jesus Christ have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. What that says to me is that, hey, half of the desires of the flesh listed in the Bible are related to sexual acting out. This is not new activity. This is something that's been around thousands of years men have struggled with. So, guys, be easy on yourself. Don't give up. You've got this, and I hope to hear. I know I'm talking to a few guys online, made some great friends through this program, and I wish you all the best. Or Mike out.
I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Porn Reboot podcast. I'll speak to you later on in the week. If you found this episode helpful, here are 4 ways I can help you with your out-of-control sexual behavior for free. The first way is to grab a free copy of my book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men at elevatedrecovery.org, or visit the link in the description below this episode. The second way is, if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals and business owners who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot group on Facebook. There's a link to join in the description below this episode. The third way is if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally or emotionally, you're about to lose your relationship, you want to live up to your potential, be an authentic man, and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving, then click on the link in the description below this episode that says free coaching call. And the fourth way is to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this podcast, so that we can reach more men who are struggling in silence and bring back the lessons we learn from coaching them to freedom.